What's up, Soul Warriors? Welcome to Recovery Soul Food. Tonight, this is our Saturday night soul session, and I am so grateful to finally get Miss Beth Syverson here on our show. She is the co-host, actually, and co-creator of the Safe Home podcast. Now, this is a podcast that is for, not only struggling teens with mental health issues and addiction, but also for a full family recovery. This is a passion so close to my heart because I too had a young son that motivated me to actually step into recovery and to be the person I am now. And, also coming from the place of being a teen with trauma and mental health issues and moving into addiction at that very same young age, I just really resonate with her message. So I'm super grateful to have her here tonight and to let her share with us her amazing story of, her beautiful son, the adoption process, who he is, and how she's able to see his soul through what's presenting right now in the forms of maybe mental health issues or addiction, or him fighting to just know who he is. As parents, that's what we are called to do, is to see our children for the soul that they are, for the all that they truly are, and help guide them towards that. But at the same time, Beth and her family has learned how to be a healthy support system for someone in active addiction. So, for so many reasons, this is an amazing podcast to be a part of right now, this episode with Beth. So, I'm super excited. So, let me get to this too. I got to do a little housekeeping, then we're going to bring Beth on. I promise I won't keep you long, but stick around to the end of this episode because I got some exciting news from our friends at Of Substance about a new, amazing, entertaining, yet, just heartfelt short film called Hide Your Crazy. It's going to be an amazing, amazing film, and they're going to invite you to be a part of it. So stick around to the end so you can hear that exciting news. Also, stay around to the end so you can get a new exciting offer from hypnobreakthrough.com for some healing and hypnotherapy. So everything's at the end. You got to stick around. And hey, if you're looking for a community where you can start and grow the most amazing recovery lifestyle, no matter whether you are in the process of recovery from substance, but if you're in the process of rediscovering yourself as a divine soul, then the Sober app is an amazing place for you to be and a community for you to surround yourself with. There are so many great creators. Recovery Soul Food is a part of this family. There are so many programs. It's the most outstanding sober tracker and community system in existence. So if you have an iPhone, you can download the Sober app in the Apple iStore. If you have an Android, we might have to go to the thesober.passion.io. And don't worry, I will put all that information in the description, and it will be along at the end of the video. So stick around. You can't go anywhere. But for right now, let's go and meet our beautiful friend, Beth Syverson. I'm probably saying it wrong because I'm from the South, but let's go. Y'all ready? We're ready. Let's go. Hey, Beth, how are you? I'm so grateful you're here.
Oh, thank you, Elsie. Great to be here. Wow, that was a pretty cool package you made there.
Well, thank you so
Very
very
impressive.
much. I am so excited about every guest I have on this season. This season has been just so close to my heart, and I'm so grateful you're a part of it. I love it. So we met through our good friend Pamela Topjian.
Mm-hmm.
She was on your episode, an episode of your podcast, and she said, "You got to meet my friend Beth. She's got such a unique story, and she just couldn't say enough about you." And so she put us together, and since then we've done an episode of your show. Now you're here
Mm-hmm.
with me. We've talked in
Mm-hmm.
between. I am such a fan of what's going on, what you have going with the Safe Home podcast, your whole story. So let's get into it. Talk to
Okay.
us about how we are come to be here, how we find Joey, the Hello Joey story. Give us how we're
Okay.
here.
Okay. All right. Very good. Yes, I adopted Joey with my then husband from Japan. Uh, Joey was born in Japan. We adopted him as a baby, and he had an idyllic childhood. I have to say, we did a as good as we could. Now looking back, we could have done some things differently, but we raised a beautiful young man, and he was delightful. I mean, like I felt like everyone else should be jealous of us because we had it all put together. And then,
Wow. Wow.
dun dun dun, then adolescence hit, and Joey, it turns out adopted people a lot of times kind of put on a mask and are a good adoptee. They don't want to
Mm.
piss anyone off because they might get
Oh
given away
yeah.
again.
Wow,
So
yeah.
that's kind of what Joey was doing. He's always lived with a mask. It's hard for him to even know who he is in real life.
Mm.
So that whole good boy thing, I mean, part of it was real, but a lot of it was just him masking and
Yeah.
just muscling it through. And then at adolescence, he just hit a wall and then all hell broke loose.
Mm.
So at 15, when he was 15, I found out while he was in the psych hospital, I found out from the drug tests that they did when he was admitted there that he had been using drugs, a lot of
Mm.
drugs, and I had no
Wow.
idea. So that was a really bad
Wow.
day.
I bet.
And yeah. And I thought, okay, okay. And he was in the psych hospital because of trying to commit suicide several
Oh
times.
wow.
Um,
Wow.
and so it was just a horrible, horrible time. But I thought, okay, okay, he'll spend a few weeks in the hospital and then he'll be good to go. That the substances will be gone because he'll have this whole mental health thing figured out in a few weeks. I I was so naive. I didn't know anything. Um, but God bless my soul. I didn't
I know.
know. I
I
didn't
know.
know.
I know. I
So
know.
anyway, it's been a long journey. Now he's 18 and he's still using substances. He's had several times of recovery, but never
Hmm.
super long. And he's just struggling. He's just
Yeah.
on the struggle bus, as one of my friends calls it. And so we created the podcast when he was in recovery, and it was his idea. And we talk about everything. We talk about
Mm.
substances, we talk about mental health issues, we talk about adoption, we talk about trauma, whatever, all of it.
Mm.
And we're just an open book. And his goal and my goal was to help other families, help
Yeah.
other kids not get involved with drugs, or help the parents to not pummel them with punishment and more trauma when they've
Yeah.
screwed stuff up. So we're trying to give parents especially the tools they need to be able to walk alongside their struggling kids.
Mm. Mm. So I mean, it's so good because that's so necessary. You tell that story, and in this very moment, that's what I love about this whole season is I went through some things like that at 15 where I had to go to the psych hospital, and I'm
Mm-hmm.
pretty sure that my mom had that same idea that, oh,
Mm-hmm.
okay, this is going to be
Mm-hmm.
fixed. And
Mm-hmm.
because I understand wearing a mask and running into that wall where it
Yeah.
gets to be too much, and the brain just doesn't process.
Yeah.
And so I think from this conversation I'm going to have a conversation with her and ask her what that day was like for
Yeah, what it
her,
was like.
because you know what was that like for you? I mean, how that feels for a parent, and I can imagine that there will be some people that can identify with that if you're comfortable about talking
Mm-hmm.
about it. But as the parent, what are the things in that very moment that this is happening,
Yeah.
and this world I thought was shattered? What is that
Yeah.
like where were you? What was it for you? Like, explain that day or that time if you can.
Yeah. It was just like everything I had, carefully piled up so beautifully in our little
Mm,
life,
mm,
it just fell apart, like all of it.
mm.
And mainly in those first days, I was terrified he was going to die. Like,
No.
I didn't
Wow.
realize psych hospitals are really pretty safe.
Hmm.
Out of all the places he could have been, that was the safest place. But I was scared of
Right.
him being there. I was scared when he came home if he would try to hurt himself again. I was just terrified. And the words coming out of his mouth those first few days were just terrifying. He
Mm,
just did not want to be here. The thing that kind of pushed him, there were a couple of things that created that atmosphere where he wanted to kill himself. One was incredibly intense racist bullying from when he was really
mm.
little. So he's Asian. We
Yes.
lived in a very white, wealthy white area, Huntington Beach,
Mm.
California, and they are just super racist. The kids taunted him every single day, and I didn't know
Oh,
it.
wow.
And the
Wow.
teachers even did, oh, it was horrible. So that was a major factor. And then the other thing was he was using psychedelics
Mm.
and by
Okay.
himself in large quantities.
Oh,
And
man.
he kind of saw the other side of
Yeah.
consciousness or whatever it is people see over there. And
Yeah, I
he's
bet.
like, I want to be there. That is a whole lot
Yes.
easier than this. And I want to
Yes.
go over there because that looks so much better.
Mm.
So it was really terrifying. And he's picked those up again several times since then. And so it's really scary.
So let's go right into that then. Let's go. I mean, it seems like it's a natural progression. Then, you're going through that, which I know so many families in so many ways, go through that. Our friend Kim, with her
Mhm,
son developing at 15, the
mhm,
epilepsy, and their
mhm.
world, had
Oh,
changed. And,
mhm.
Pamela's had, different experiences. So, having that experience, now how do we go from, okay, now what do I do in this?
Yeah.
Because it sounded like you started becoming aware that you were in a dangerous situation yourself, with the fear and the
Oh,
worry.
I was a mess. I was just a ball of anxiety. I was not in a grounded, healthy space at that
Mm,
moment. And how could I be? I had no idea it was
right,
coming. It was like
right,
just like
right.
crash. So, but for probably a year, I was the workaholic supermom. I will fix everything. Don't worry. I will find the doctor, psychiatrist, rehab, whatever alternative. I was searching everything. And I will find somebody or something that can fix this situation up.
Mm,
And
mm.
nothing worked.
Not so much.
Nothing worked. It was so frustrating, and, our healthcare system is horrible for teens in addiction. They were just no help at all. But honestly, even if they would have been exactly what we needed, it might not have worked because Joey was not ready
Right,
or wanting
right,
to be helped. And I had to really learn that hard lesson that I cannot fix another human being. And there's really nothing broken. It's not like he needs to be fixed. He just needs to be seen and
right.
and and held and walked beside.
Yeah, yeah,
He because it's his journey. He needs to figure out if he wants to be healed.
yes,
Then he's got to figure out what modality will help him.
absolutely.
And so I had to switch from being the cruise director, you know, running
Right.
this kid everywhere, saying, "Come on, this will fix you. This will fix you,"
Yep,
to backing
yep.
off and saying, "Okay, I'm here. If you want a rehab at any moment in time, let me know. I will hook you up. I have resources that I can give you when you're ready.
Hmm.
And until that time, I am here. I am
Mm,
here to talk to. I'm here to just play with. We go out and do stuff now. He's still in active addiction,
hmm.
and we go out to lunch. I take him out for ice cream. We go on walks. We do stuff, and
That's awesome.
so it's a little different than that tough love, where you
Hmm.
just shut the door and say, "Call me when you're sober."
Right, right,
Yeah.
right, right. Well, maybe what you've done though has put in place the things that stop that having to happen, where you slam the door, because you
I
do
hope
have
so.
some very powerful boundaries in place with that
Yes.
too. So let's go right into talking about that, so that people really understand that, maybe if we do this healthier
Yeah.
supported, walk beside, we don't have to necessarily get to the place where we've got to shut everything down, because that's not good for either side.
No, and
And we
it's not necessary.
no,
It
no,
hurts us all. That disconnection is hurting everyone. And,
yes,
I'm sure you've heard that, Johann Hari, I think is the guy's name, that says the opposite of addiction is connection.
yes,
When people are
yes.
addicted, they seek connection. It may not look like it. It might look like
Hmm.
they're pushing everyone away, but what they
Right,
really want is connection.
right.
So, but yeah, like you said, we have extremely strong and large boundaries. He's no longer allowed in our house right now until
Hmm.
he's, super stable.
Yeah,
um,
yeah.
he lives with his dad, which is not very good. His dad is a very big enabler and
Mm,
just kind of lets the whole process happen under his own roof. Um, but I and we don't give him any money. I buy him food that I eat with him right in front of him. And that's it. That's it. So, but I'm here for resources and for moral support and for emotional support. And he knows that he is unconditionally loved and that we are here for him. And luckily, he still tells us stuff.
that's good.
He tells me what he's using. I mean, I don't
That's
drill
good.
him on it. I've only, so what are you using right now? But,
Yeah,
he'll say, yeah, mom, I'm really struggling because I'm back on this X substance or whatever.
yeah,
And I'm
yeah.
trying to get off it. Da, da, da. So,
That's amazing. That's amazing, because you still have him there. That
mm-hmm,
connection is still there. That
mm-hmm,
he knows that the moment he's ready,
mm-hmm.
that he doesn't have to go searching through a whole bunch of
Yeah.
no's, to
Yes.
and struggle getting discouraged. That happens in a
Mm-hmm,
lot of ways, and I think that's pretty amazing, because a
mm-hmm.
lot of people that just do the shutout, and then they have no connection. They
Mm-hmm,
don't. They always deal with that human being in the same way, so it's all resistance.
mm-hmm,
And I don't think you can build healthy
mm-hmm.
boundaries in the midst of resistance, so they never hear them. So if somebody reaches out for the resource, how do they know they're telling the truth? They'll only gauge with that
Yes.
perception. So
Yes.
they
There's a lot of distrust. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so you're growing, like with Joey. You're
Yeah.
able to be around him enough and have a connection enough where you can see,
Mm-hmm,
because you'll know
mm-hmm.
whether it's real,
Yeah.
or you'll know because
Yeah.
of this connection. I think that's amazing.
Yeah, I think not not typical, and I have learned this from my life coach,
Mhm.
who is her name is Heather Ross, and she's amazing,
Mm.
and she's helped us so much. She's the one that flipped me around from being an anxious cruise
Oh,
director
good.
mom, super mom, to being just I'm just another human being walking this path with him.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
have no control over really anything except my own thoughts and actions.
Mm.
So in addition to kind of letting Joey go, um, and he was older at that point, maybe 16 and a half, 17.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
kind of coasting toward adulthood. And now he's 18. So I really, really have no control now. But
Yeah.
in addition to that release of him, I turned the focus toward myself and
Yes.
toward that necessary work of personal growth and dealing with my
Yes.
own trauma, my own
Mm.
adolescence, my own, stuff that has been left undone. I had a whole
Yes.
pile of it. And so I've been working really hard on that in several different modalities and just doing a lot of reading, doing a lot of therapy and coaching and breath work and da 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 da. Da. I've got a giant list of things I do.
Outstanding, because
And
that's one of the questions is, yeah, I would love for you to talk about some of those lists, just because sometimes we run across a modality when we think we know a lot of what's out there. Sometimes
uh-huh.
somebody comes along and says something I didn't know, and so it's a great resource.
Oh yeah, there's so much. And in the process of trying to help Joey, I found a bunch. And then I'm like, well, I
Mm,
guess I'll try them. So I
yes.
mean, I've done brain spotting. Have you heard of that?
No, see,
Okay.
no,
Yeah.
have not.
Brain spotting was really cool. Okay, so it has to do with finding the part of your brain that is, not the frontal lobe, but the
Hmm.
more reptilian part that
Yeah.
you don't really access very often. And
Hmm.
it's using your eyes and you look at different parts, your eyes move and then you find a spot and then it feels different and then you stay there and then the guide the therapist or psychiatrist or whatever kind of talks you through and I was able to in a couple of brain spotting sessions find my 4 or 5 year old Beth,
Wow.
and her name
Wow.
was Ruby, and she was very exuberant and playful, which is so
Wow.
not me. That was so not
Wow.
me when I was a kid. But I'm
Wow.
like, okay, there I am. Yeah, I can see that. And she wanted to come out and play, and she wanted to, explore stuff, and it was amazing. And it was really neat. I would have continued it if I could have just kept affording it.
Yeah, a lot of times these different modalities, I mean, it's almost like the access consciousness that I was just had Brendan Watt on, and the more
Mhm.
I've learned about it, where they are talking to you while touching different, places in the head and working through
Oh,
things. So it's almost kind of the
yeah.
around the same kind of idea. And of course, EMDR we know is a great
Yes.
healing modality. So there's so much more in what we're finding out than just medicating issues, because we are
Yeah.
a generation of medicated human
Yeah,
beings.
for sure.
And now it's, we're all starting to kind of wake up and shake off the cold. It's like, and the same
Yeah.
with people coming into recovery is a clear mind is a true conscious mind.
Mhm.
I was young, and I was a young musician, and that was my goal in life, was to be a musician. And so, I often thought when I was, Joey's age, that if I would use, psychedelics or substances,
Mhm. Mhm.
I could access a different place in my mind to
Yes.
get music, because that's what all of my hero musicians did at the time.
Yes. Oh, yeah, that's
And
so prevalent.
yeah, and most of them were a part of that 27 club that, they talked about with Janis Joplin
Mm.
and all the people that died at that time and that age, that I planned to die at 27. It was almost that I
Wow.
did everything I could to live up to that. And it became such a subconscious belief that
Mm.
at a certain point, I didn't know I was operating from that anymore. But
Wow.
what I find out, and if Joey ever watches this, I hope that, that he'll see this part, that what I found out is that even though it's exciting to touch that other side, if you come back and you do it naturally within you, you almost
Mhm.
get the chance to live there instead of
Yes.
just touching and going and wishing for something else, because there's a
Yeah.
reason we're here in human bodies,
Mhm.
and to have this other spiritual side is, to dually come together as a whole person.
Mhm.
So if you're able to do that with a clear and clean
Yeah.
mind, then
Yeah.
you live there in a way. And so much better. It's so much better.
Yeah. Healthier, cheaper,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
legal stuff like
Yes.
all
Yes.
those things, all
Yes.
those obstacles. The another thing that's really helped me is breath work,
Mm.
holotropic breath work, or I think they call it something else, but it's using just fast rhythmic breathing, and then they pump really loud music in it, and it varies the tempo and kind of gets you and I've had some really amazing kind of visions. It seems
Wow.
kind of like what you would experience on psychedelics, but it's just literally using your breath. And if you get overwhelmed, you just slow down your breath and you're out of it. It's so
Wow.
safe, and
Wow. That's neat.
yeah, it's a really cool modality too. One of them, I
Love
saw
it.
Joey, and it was very helpful. At the time, I was kind
That's
of
great.
floating and kind of looking for Joey, and which was always, he's run away from me so many times. Not, kind of, it's kind of been a whole thing
Wow.
of looking for him all the time. And Joey turned around and he says, "Mom, I don't want you to catch me. I want you to just follow me."
Wow.
So I
Wow.
know.
Wow.
So I've been trying to figure out what exactly that means, but I think it means to quit grabbing at him, to quit,
Yes.
pulling and forcing
Yeah.
and just
Yes.
walk beside him. That's kind of how I've interpreted it.
Well, that's exactly what happens. I mean, we hold their energy when we're in that about anyone. If you have a sick relative, when we're in that place where all we see is the sickness and we just want to change
Mhm.
it, we hold that
Mhm.
energy because that's all we see.
Yeah.
And, when my wife was in an active addiction, when I had made the decision for recovery and she was all of a sudden in a relapse, I was holding her energy so
Mm.
tight. And until,
Mhm.
like you, I worked on myself. I got a
Mhm.
coach, a trauma coach that,
Yep.
started working through. I started, really reading and listening and practicing and doing the work within me,
Mhm.
not just
Mhm.
listening or hearing, but actioning it. That was when things just started to, break open for me in that way.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, I, I don't know. It's just so inspiring to listen to you talk about, you know, all that you've done, because I can feel that same healing, because working with that coach, releasing them,
Mm-hmm.
it allowed them to change. It allowed my
Mm-hmm.
wife to change.
Mm-hmm.
But if we hold,
Yeah.
they can't move because that's
Yes.
all we see.
Yeah. It's almost like you're trapping them
Yes.
in that old
Yeah.
paradigm. Yeah. You
Yes.
have to. And the other thing that it's been really helpful for Joey is that he no longer has to worry that his mother's going to completely fall apart. You know,
Exactly.
he can relax and just work on himself and not worry, oh shit, this is going to make my mom go over the edge here.
Yeah.
And he knows that I'll be okay.
Yeah.
Whatever he presents to me, I will be okay. I've got enough support right now and I'm grounded. I know how to pull myself together and I've got many resources. So
Mm.
I'll be okay. So he just has to worry about himself. I think that released a lot of his anxiety, right? He doesn't have
And the
to worry
shame.
about me and the shame.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the shame will. Yeah.
Yeah. And he knows that I'm not blaming him or shaming him at all. I try not to anyway. Sometimes I say something and he's like, oh, ouch. And so we work through that. But
That's
he
good.
knows that I am just here. I understand what he's going through as much as I can from,
Hmm.
the outside. But I know he's not trying to be self-destructive. It just he's not trying to hurt me. Obviously, it's not about
Right.
me. This is not
Right.
about
No.
me. So it releases him to do his own work. And
Yeah.
so I'm hoping that this will I don't know how our story will end, but so far it's allowed us to stay in relationship. So if that's the
Well,
only thing that it
yeah.
gets us, that's a lot.
It is. It truly, truly is. It's more than a lot of people experience with this.
Mhm.
And the
Mhm.
more you talk about it and the more that do things, webinars, the more that you do, all the different things that you do, the podcasts, all that you're doing with
Mhm.
that is letting that message of healing spread to
Mhm.
the family. And whether it's the way you found healing or I
Mhm.
found healing, it gives people permission to find their healing,
Mhm.
because we are in we live under a paradigm, it seems like, in our lifetime, in our world, where to miss someone or to be sorry is to be permanently sad and destructive and stuck,
Mhm. Mhm.
and that's how we think that we pay people back, and that's that shame loop
Yeah.
and that guilt
Yes.
that has come through so many generations
Mhm.
of parenting types, that we realize, that hindsight thing, we realize that guilt and shame was part of the entire loop that just keeps you running after addiction and
Yes.
escaping, because you're
Mhm.
already a raw nerve. I
Yeah.
say the suitcase of your soul's already full. It's bursting open. You're a raw nerve. And
Mhm.
all you can do, it seems like, is just use to make that stop.
Mhm.
It's like stopping the bleeding,
Yeah.
for a lot of pain.
Yeah. Joey has so much just existential pain. I don't blame him, honestly, for wanting to numb that pain.
Hmm.
To look at that pain and to deal with it is so hard. And I'm 53, he's 18. I'm starting to deal with my shit finally.
Mm,
And
mm,
he's only 18. And
yeah,
3 of those years he's been on substances. So take away 3 years of rational, ability
right,
to work through stuff.
right.
So I can't blame him. I probably would do the same thing.
But what you're doing now is likely to make it be more like, a shorter visit
I hope
than
so.
someone that has no support and feels more alone as they push back. So having
Yeah.
you even educating yourself about addiction, because I have
Mhm.
no doubt that you've done
Mhm.
that.
Oh,
And
yes.
talk to
Are
us
you
about what you've
familiar?
done there.
Yeah. Are you familiar with the crafts method or the craft
Mm,
approach?
I, I don't know. I don't know. I don't think so.
I
I
can't
don't think
remember
so.
what it stands for, but if you just Google craft approach, CRAFT,
Okay.
it's community something something. It's a way of looking at addiction and addicted people. And instead of shutting the door on them or instead of doing these interventions where you force them into rehab, blah, 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 you give them positive connection. And sometimes
Mm,
that might look like they're not living at your house, but
Yeah.
it's positive. And it's not a condoning or enabling everything they do. It's not enabling, but it's, you know, whenever possible to have a positive connection. And that has been proven to help people get out of addiction sooner
It's
and more whole than if it's just punishment and locking people up and, you know, that old there craft approach. Yeah. It's really great.
nice.
And there's a book called Beyond Addiction that talks about the craft approach quite a bit. That's a really
Outs-
great book.
Outstanding. Outstanding. Yes, I will absolutely look that up because I just love everything that you're doing in sharing the story and
Mhm.
in making a resource and making a way. And we were talking about before that you've got tell us about what some of the things the Safe Home podcast and platform does. Like you've got a webinar coming up.
Mhm.
Talk to us about that and what's going to go on there and tell me all
Yeah.
about that.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, so we have a weekly podcast, and then I am just starting a monthly webinar. The first one is March 26th at 10 a.m. Pacific, and it's going to be called, it is called Just One More: What My Sugar Addiction Taught Me.
Mm,
So, you know, that instinct to just, okay, I'm just gonna have
yeah.
one more cookie.
Yeah.
Oh, this is my last game of Wordle. This is my
Yeah.
last whatever. And I promise. And then, oops, I mean, now this one's my last one.
Yeah.
Okay, no, I guess I'm going to have one more. This one's really my last one. And I'm going to
Nice.
start again tomorrow, all fresh.
Yeah.
So I understand
Love
addiction
that.
because of my own addiction to sugar.
Love that.
So I was super, super addicted to sugar, and I've been off of sugar and flour for 5 years. And
Oh,
so that has informed my understanding of addiction. I've never used drugs, but I understand Joey's pull. I understand that craving. And so the webinar next Saturday is going to be teaching parents or teaching people who are addicted, whatever, wherever you are in this whole paradigm, that addiction is just a brain. Uh, it's a problem in your brain receptors, your dopamine receptors, and it's not a moral failing. It's not like a medical condition, really. It's just like a different coping mechanism that your brain has figured out.
exactly.
And so dealing with your own personal growth and healing your trauma, whatever you grew up with and you're carrying with you. So I'm going to be talking about how I recovered from sugar and how that's helped me deal with Joey.
Outstanding. So, what
Yeah.
time is that? I know it's next Saturday. At what time?
At 10 a.m. Pacific.
Okay. I'm going to write it here, and then the ways to get in touch with you are in the description, but I'm going to let you tell them anyway. Um,
Yeah,
whenever but how do they get signed up for this live webinar?
the easiest thing is probably to go to either Instagram or Facebook, find Safe Home
Okay.
Podcast, and then you'll find the event really easily. You
Perfect.
can, yeah, that's probably the easiest way.
All
It's
right.
also on Eventbrite. You can search for Safe Home Podcast on Eventbrite.
Awesome, awesome.
Mm.
And I think a lot of all those links are in the description box below too. So I'm so grateful that you are doing stuff like that because it looks like your platform is building more of a community, not just this one thing. And so I just love that
Yeah.
you do that. That
Yeah,
you do that.
I'm also going to be creating a book group soon. We'll do a
Good,
book probably about once a month, and a private Facebook group is coming, things like that, and a memoir. I'm writing a memoir
good,
and
good.
things like that. There's not a lot out there talking to parents of
Right,
kids who are struggling.
right.
Normally, we're hiding. We're like not showing our face. We're like la la la. My kid is just he's on a
Yep,
long vacation or something. You
yep,
know, you just don't
yep.
talk about. It. But I really feel that there's nothing to be ashamed of on anybody's part.
Absolutely.
And the more we
It's
talk
not your
about it,
fault.
right? It's not the parents'
Yeah.
fault. It's not the kids' fault. It's just the way things are, and there's nothing to be ashamed about. And so the more we can talk and be open about it, the better.
Absolutely. Make evolving and expanding through connection with one another. It's so
Hmm.
true. I mean, because I think that we have this knee-jerk reaction as parents to feel like this responsibility when our kids
Yes.
go out and all of a sudden this is what happens because society,
Hmm.
has looked back at the parent because,
Hmm.
is that the best y'all could do? That kind of thing.
Yeah.
Not even, seeing that there are underlying things there, that parents can
Mhm.
do the best that they can do. And I believe that most of us are anyway. We're doing
Mhm.
the best that we can do at all times. And, I realized when my wife was going through her relapse and our son was, about 13 through 15, and he was having an online gaming addiction. I
Mhm.
knew that something in this was happening for a purpose,
Mhm.
because it gave me that experience to know what it's like to be the person on the other side
Oh, yeah.
and having to feel that worry and that fear,
Mhm.
and
It's
all the
really
things that
hard.
my grandparents had gone through with myself, I
Yeah.
was going through then. And I knew, okay, this is going to be, for
Mm.
something. And now I can make a deeper connection with
Mhm.
the family that I had at the
Yeah.
time. And so it is always for something. So that's the truth. Like, if we can move away, not if we could move away from the, judgment of a moral failing for addictions, and begin to
Mhm.
look at at things, that the deeper roots,
Yeah.
and become less shameful about sharing about those things,
Yeah.
then we can help, you know we can help people move out of that quicker. And I just really think that the way you're doing things with Joey is just amazing for our teenage community, because they're not being seen in this
Yeah.
struggle as much
Yeah.
as they should be. When, if you ask any addict of my person struggling in addiction, even in my age, they would tell
Mhm.
you, oh, well, I probably started using early, 14,
Yeah.
15.
Yeah.
So now we're talking to people at that age. So tell me some of the signs.
Mm.
I think it's necessary for us to talk to people about what are some of the signs that
Mhm.
you started to see at all in Joey, that began to let you know when he was using, or was there is there anything you saw then? But then also we'll take it a second part and look at hindsight.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Okay.
Well, I didn't realize he was using drugs until I found out from the doctor
Right.
at the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
But looking back now, the things that I thought were just adolescence was
Mm-hmm.
probably totally because of the weed. He was shutting his door to his room a lot, like just
Mm-hmm.
staying in there doing God knows what.
Mm-hmm.
He was really hard to wake up in the morning,
Mm-hmm.
really, really hard to wake up. And then he'd fall asleep as soon as I got him in the car. He
Mm-hmm.
was, super
Okay.
unmotivated.
Mm-hmm.
His grades dropped. He didn't care about baseball anymore, and he was a really awesome baseball player. But part of it was his baseball team was harassing him relentlessly about his
Mm-hmm.
race, and just, ugh, it was so frustrating.
That bullying's hard.
God, it's really horrible. I really didn't realize people would bully people for being Asian. I thought, Asian, really?
I know.
I I don't understand. I don't understand bullying anyone, but I
I
didn't.
know.
It was not even on my radar. But if I now that I know, Asian people are discriminated against all the time, and it's more microaggressions is not blatant and out there, but it's
Yeah.
microaggressions all the time that just
Yeah.
add up and just tear you down and make
I
you feel
didn't
like
learn.
you're not welcome.
Yeah, I didn't learn about that really. That, the Asian culture experienced a whole lot of that until Corona, until,
Yeah, that
coronavirus
got really
started, and then
bad.
that really
Yeah.
started. And then I started doing a history about that, and how that started, after Pearl Harbor, and a
Mhm.
lot of things in, out your way in California. And so,
Mhm.
it's really wild what is not in your,
Yeah.
reality, until it's in your reality,
Yes,
you
exactly.
know?
And now that I know, I try to let people know that, kids get teased for all sorts of things and people are just, you know, terrible to each other sometimes.
Well, they really are. And if we could learn to, like, have an open dialogue in families
Mhm.
where, you can know that stuff's going on. It's not like we can stop kids, dead in their
Yeah.
tracks from doing these things. I mean, it has to stop at home, in all honesty. Like,
Yeah.
there's a lot of things when a bully is bullying, there's a whole lot of stuff going on for that, that
Y-
person too, that kid
yes,
too,
he
you
learned
know?
that, he or she learned that
Yeah,
somewhere, right?
somewhere,
Yeah.
and they're acting out from some type of, emotional
Mhm.
cry for something as well. So,
Totally.
that all would have to start at home. But if you had that open communication with your kid to where you can
Yeah.
hear and say, I'm being bullied, this is happening, and you can work on that together, that
Yes.
would end up being the way that would stop that.
Yeah.
But
And we did not have that. We looked really well on the outside. We got along beautifully, but we did not have that deeper connection where he was feeling
mm,
free to tell us whatever was going on. He hid a lot of stuff a couple of years. Yeah.
I can
So,
imagine that he probably thought to himself, well, I have everything. Why am I not happy? Or maybe I
yeah.
should, and so maybe if I pretend, it'll catch
Yeah.
on or something. You
Yes.
never know. You never
I
know.
I know. In a way, I think he felt that this is what he deserved, or I guess it's just how life is. He didn't know.
Yeah,
And I'm not of the same race, so his dad is also Japanese American, but maybe he didn't think I'd understand, which I probably wouldn't have
maybe.
understood. So poor
Maybe. I mean,
guy.
I think everything is for a reason, and I
Mhm.
really hope that I feel certain that Joey will you know, come to the place where he will want to be, in recovery, once he finds out that it's possible,
Yeah. I hope
it's
so.
possible. And
Yeah.
he will, and he'll find us. I mean, he's got support, and
Yeah.
that's a whole lot. That's
He
a whole lot.
really we often talk, even when he's using substances, we often talk about when he gets to recovery, that he wants to be either an addiction counselor, or he or he wants to study the brain, or he wants to
Mm,
do something to help other people. Like, he
mm,
has a huge heart for that. That's why we made this podcast. And by the way, when he relapsed and was no longer able to record the podcast, because he was just off in his own world, I
mm-hmm.
asked him, I said, well, should I shut it down? What do you want me to do with this? And he goes, no, mom, I want you to keep going. I need you to keep going and
Yeah.
talk about relapse. We've got 2 or 3 episodes about relapse. One of them, him talking to me in using substance. He's
Wow. That's
yeah.
amazing.
Hmm.
That's amazing. So he's often, so he still knows that he's I mean, just having that goal in his
Hmm.
heart, in his mind,
Yeah.
is helpful already. And that he's at a place where he still, hope still lives there,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah. He really
Wow,
wants to help other people.
that's amazing. That's amazing. So if you had a message right now to families who are, let's see, this is kind of a two-part question too, but for families that are on their own mental health healing journey already, a message there, and a separate message for a family who's maybe right there in that moment where everything is crashing down, or they've
Mm-hmm.
realized that their young teenager is using drugs or having mental health issues.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a couple messages you could
Yeah.
give?
Yeah. Okay. 2 things. The first one is curiosity.
Mm,
Instead of punishing or controlling, or grounding your kid or whatever, get curious. Why would they think that numbing their pain with a substance that they had to get illegally somehow underground, why did they think that would be a good solution? What are they trying to fix or cover up or soothe? And
mm-hmm,
so that
mm-hmm,
curiosity without judgment, just curiosity, which means really thinking about what trauma they might have gone through, what might be happening at school. It might be a little digging. It might be opening up a communication with them, getting curious and without judgment.
mm,
That's a really big one. And
yeah.
it took me a while to get there. I did not That was not my initial instinct. I didn't go the punishment route either. That's not quite my style either, but I was just in fix mode.
Yeah.
But curiosity is a much different energy.
Much
So
different.
curiosity, yeah. And the other thing I would suggest for parents, especially if you're just going through it right now, is to take care of yourself.
Mm,
It feels
mm,
so backwards. It feels like, but my son needs me, but they're going to die without me. Well, I don't know. They might die with you. They might die without you. I don't know. But to pull yourself together so you can be there for your kid. You know,
Mm.
that whole, if the oxygen mask falls down from the airplane,
Yeah.
you got to put it on yourself
Yes.
and then turn around and help your kid. So
Yes.
healing yourself, and it's so easy in this situation to think that your kid is the problem.
Yeah.
I got to
It
work on this
is.
problem over here because he's a problem.
Mm.
It's never just one person that's the problem. It's a family problem. And so if each person in the family can go figure out what they need to work on, and for everyone it's going to be different, but just do their own personal growth, and your kid will see that and go, oh really,
Yeah.
I guess I'm not under the microscope here, and wow, my mom can change and things feel better now, so that's really awesome, and maybe I
Yeah.
can change too. So
Yeah.
that would be my curiosity, and then working on yourself.
That's amazing, and I think that it's powerful because it is very true, you know. And like we talked about earlier, you cannot make this problem go away. Like you cannot intervention anybody enough. You cannot shame somebody enough.
Mm-mm.
You cannot guilt them. You cannot punish them. You can't ground them. You
Nope.
just can't. And it seems the more that you try to push at that, the
Mm-hmm.
more, you know, they are, you know, then that's what they move towards, and they
Mm-hmm.
can't break out of that energy. So it's so, you know, absolutely the amazing advice, and I appreciate you sharing it here. And so how do you work on you every day? So what does it look like for you? Is there like a, I guess the question is there a theme to the work you're doing within yourself these days?
Hmm.
And I'll just say, you know, for an example, like relationships or communication, is there a
Mm.
common theme that you're seeing through your personal work today? And what does that personal work look like?
Okay. Um, my personal work lately looks like awareness.
Mm,
I'm trying to become more aware of myself, kind of like I'm watching myself from above
mm, mm,
and going, "Oh, there you go. You're doing that thing again.
yeah,
You're
yeah,
doing that thing again." Or being aware of my thoughts. I'm trying to, this, I'm working with my, that same life coach again, and trying to be aware of my thoughts about my self-worth, or my, you know, am am I allowed to do this work? Sometimes I get self-conscious about this work because,
mm,
like, who am I? I don't know. I'm just a mom
yeah,
with a struggling kid. But to find those things where I just keep running into a wall, my own walls that I own, that I
yeah,
build myself. So
yeah,
trying to become more aware. So it's a lot of mindfulness. I'm not really good at meditation where I just sit there, but I do a
yeah,
lot of meditation while I'm walking and while I'm
yes,
working,
yes,
and
yes,
while just I'm just in tune with what's happening. That's
yes.
probably the main thing.
I love that because it's not often, you know, I find myself sometimes shaming myself whenever I don't am not able to meditate on a daily basis like everyone else meditates, and I forget and don't give myself credit for all the meditation that I do while I'm
Yeah.
methodically, while I'm working, and
Yep.
while I'm walking and being, you know, everywhere I kind of go. So I appreciate you saying that.
Mhm.
And so I appreciate that awareness, because that was actually the example that I wrote down, was awareness. And
Mm.
so you know, I see a common theme with myself
Mhm.
in that I'm using awareness to find acceptance
Mhm.
for not fixing what I see, you
Yes.
know, the source for other people. Because sometimes
Mhm.
it's hard when you've done a lot of work and you can kind of see the
Mhm.
similarities in someone else, and you can't, there's nothing you can
Yeah.
do to force
Ah.
them, you know, because they are on that journey, and that's hard to accept
Yeah.
when it's your own child. And you know,
That's
we've, you know, we share kind of a bit of a story in that
Mhm.
I work on it with my own son, and
Mhm.
I just started doing that work, and now he's on an upward trajectory
Good.
because, again, you take
Similarity.
yourself, yeah,
Yes.
you take yourself
It's
aware.
it's so, we feel like we know what the answer is, and if they would just do XYZ, it would fix everything. But that is not the truth.
Right,
My
right.
XYZ is not the same as his XYZ, and he's got to figure that out on his own. He's on his own journey, and
Yes,
I don't know what's going to work for him. No one
absolutely.
knows that. Everybody has to figure it out for themselves. And now he's old enough. that he's able to. But yeah, it's you just wish if they would only do
Yeah.
what I know is the right answer.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh well.
You're so right. You're so right. And you're right, because that advice usually comes from our lived experience,
Right.
and
It would work
it
for us.
it would work for
Mhm.
us probably perfectly, but it
Mhm.
might not necessarily work for them. And you're
Mhm.
right, because that's that generational modality that that paradigm that we've lived over and
Mhm.
over. And now we're at a point where we're breaking that paradigm. And
Mhm.
so we can starting younger now,
Mhm.
because the more we
Mhm.
talk about this stuff, then younger people hear that, and
Mhm.
younger parents coming up are parenting their
Mhm.
children a bit different. And so I think that it's quite amazing in those ways, and that we are part of this big change, and changing the stigma of all of this,
Mhm.
because that's what the whole point of all of this is
Yes.
that why keep why keep doing things that don't work?
Yeah.
Just, is it perseverance that we just keep
Mhm.
doing the same old thing, and
Mhm.
eventually it's going to catch on and it's going
Yeah.
to work? We're going to
Right.
save people. I mean, prisons are bigger than they've ever been.
Yeah.
We can't build enough.
Yeah. Is
Um,
that helping?
it,
No, not at
nope,
all.
not at all.
No.
Not at
Yeah,
all.
that contributes to that continuous shaming, and they're not getting the help they need to deal with their
Mm,
trauma.
nope.
There's not enough people out there that understand trauma in our, especially in our penal system, but even in our healthcare system. More
Yeah.
people need to really look at how traumatic experiences that have happened to you completely affect you. I
Yeah.
mean, come on now, that's not that hard to figure out,
No,
right?
absolutely not. I mean, it can reshape your brain. In a
Yeah.
forming brain, you're forming around
Yes.
these scabs of pain, if you will. You're
Yeah.
just forming, building up around
Mhm.
it. So it's not that it's going away. And I was talking to my wife today as we took a drive. Even my mom's generation, that was their, just push through.
Yeah.
You don't think about all that
Yes.
stuff, you get through it.
Yes.
That's their claim to glory. I've made it through
Yes.
this because I just
Yeah.
move on. But
Yeah.
yet, in their lives, you're seeing it subconsciously manifest over and over
Yes.
and over again. And, as we keep coming down generations, we begin now
Yeah.
to break that and say, oh,
Mhm.
wait.
Yeah.
So I'm not just a what I'd call a screw up. I'm actually running programs, within through my
Yeah.
subconscious, and I'm doing things that I don't even understand why,
Yeah, yeah.
you know?
Because when that happens to you, especially when it happens when you're little, you don't have the cognitive ability to understand what's going on, so you just make it up. You make
Yep,
up, "Oh, I guess this is how the world is."
yep,
I
yep.
I have a my grandmother is 95,
Oh,
and,
wow.
I recently had a conversation with her, and, her mother died when she was 3,
Mm,
and so she had to become, uh, very self-sufficient very quickly because she was in a poor farm family and I
mm.
said, "Grandma, do you think that affected you at all in your life?" She goes, "Nah, nah, I was just fine." I'm like, "How can you be fine? Your mother died when you're 3 and then
Yeah,
your dad was abusive." How can
yeah,
that not have affected you? But I didn't argue with her, but I'm like, "Oh, bless her heart." You just power through.
yeah,
That generation, they just powered through. But
yep. They did.
that's not that effective. So I think we can face it. With support like your
Yeah,
program,
yeah,
there's so much out there that is supportive of people if people can just find whatever resonates with
yeah,
them, find your support and dig into this tough stuff.
yeah.
It's
Yeah,
tough,
because
but it's not
it's tough.
impossible.
It's not, you're right, and it's worth it to do, because all we're doing when we numb the pain through addiction or habits, or whatever it is that we're reaching out for, all we do is prolong it.
Yeah.
And then, there's more to come, so as
Yeah.
soon as you're sober, it just rolls over you, and it's
Yeah.
it's coming with reinforcements. It's like a dam
Yeah.
that's been just stopped for a
Yes.
minute, and so then it's
Yeah.
coming through, and
Yeah,
it's too much.
the sobriety is great, but it doesn't fix
Right.
anything. That just
No,
kinda
it
makes your
surely
mind
doesn't.
able to deal with it. So,
Exactly.
yeah.
Exactly. That's the difference between, healing the roots and just getting clean and sober. And
Yeah.
I tried clean and sober so long, and it just didn't work, because I was still emotionally
Yes.
dealing with the same stuff. And now I just didn't have the one coping skill that was helping me, so to speak, through that time.
Mm-hmm.
So, that
Yeah.
doesn't last long. And
Yeah.
then that helps, bring new trauma to you, because now you're
Yeah.
hurting and you got to deal with more of that, you know.
Yes. Yeah. And then
Yeah,
the life you need to live when you're using drugs causes all sorts of more trauma.
absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. It's always, you're having to go against yourself. And
Mm-hmm.
I just, like we've talked about before, I think the more we run away from ourselves and we try to put
Mm-hmm.
all the walls up and do
Mm-hmm.
everything that we've been trained to do, or we
Mm-hmm.
see other people doing, we do
Mm-hmm.
all this stuff, we run away from ourselves, the more unrest we feel, regardless of
Mm-hmm.
what it is. When we turn around and we move back towards our stuff, meaning going through all the messes and
Yeah.
stuff that we in our path to move
Yep.
away,
Mm-hmm.
that we come back home and learn that, man, the answers were here all the time.
Yes. Yes.
This is where
Yes.
I lived all the time,
Yes.
and so I just hold all the healing and loving energy around you and your
Oh,
amazing
thank you.
family and Joey, and I look forward to hearing about so many success stories, and thank you for touching the youth of today and doing this for families and
Yes.
teenagers, and helping this information get out. I'm constantly a fan of
Oh,
you, Beth, and Joey, and the Safe Home podcast, and just everything that you all are doing.
oh, thank
So,
you so much.
where can tell us again where people can find you, where you want them to go? I know we've got Instagram up here.
Uh-huh.
Everything's written in the description box, but tell us where people should go right now if they want to connect with you.
Yeah, just search for Safe Home Podcast in quotes and you'll find it. We have a YouTube channel and Facebook. Our podcast lives on Anchor, so it lives on all of the podcast apps. And yeah, I'm gonna make a
That's
website
awesome.
soon, so I can just have you go to safehomesomething.com, but I don't have it quite
That's
yet. So,
that's
but just
awesome.
Google us and you can also email. Oh yeah, email me at hello@safehomefamilies.com. Thank you. Putting that up there.
Outstanding.
Yeah.
Outstanding. I'm so grateful that you are here tonight and that we got to have this conversation and just to share what you're doing. I know this won't be the last time. We are now friends in
Yeah.
this whole situation, so we will talk
Interconnected.
often. Yes, we are.
Yes.
And so I look forward to seeing
Oh,
how your community grows, and I also look forward
yes.
to us collaborating, doing some things over there with the Sober app, and
Oh, yeah, I'm
hopefully
looking
you're
forward
going
to
to
that.
get to talk to those guys and see what that's about.
Yeah.
Who knows? Who
And
knows?
hopefully Joey will come back soon, and
Yes.
I know he would love to meet you, and,
Oh,
I've told
yes.
him all about you, and, hopefully Joey will be back in the picture very soon.
I really hope so. I feel such a kinship with him. It seems that, I really understand from so many deeper levels. I'm so grateful for
Yeah.
that. So, and there's just so many people I want to put you in contact with, and one of those people is my friend Alex Captain from Of Substance, and they make short films that are entertaining, but they are also heartfelt about mental health issues and addiction, and they are like Hollywood style big productions, and they're very short films, and they've got a new one coming up that they are giving us all a chance to be a part of, and it's called Hide Your Crazy. And this is going to be an entertaining horror film that's got a lot of humor and a lot of heart in it. And so they are offering us all the chance to get in on that. And I'm going to put this up right here. You can go to Instagram and follow Alex Captain Of Substance and Hide Your Crazy Film. Write it just like that. You guys get in touch with them, and the link is also down in the description. And get ready to be a part of an amazing, amazing film. And I would love to put you and as well in contact with them. I think that your story could hold a massive impact in a very great, beautiful way in a short, beautiful film
Hmm.
about your family. So I'd
Well,
love
that
to
sounds
put
wonderful.
you
Thank
in
you.
contact with them as well, because when we combine together,
Yeah.
we're just better together. And for all of our Recovery Soul Food listeners and even our Transgender Mentor listeners, my good friend Pamela Topjian and HypnoBreakthrough.com is going to give a free full session of hypnotherapy And that you can get right here. You can mention Recovery Soul Food and go and talk to Pamela and let her know. And that means you're going to get the first consultation session and then another free full session. And Pamela is amazing at what she does. And I just know I couldn't be the who I am without Pamela as well. So make sure you hit Of Substance. Make sure that all of you go and follow the Safe Home podcast with Beth. And did I say your last name right?
Yeah, Syverson, you did it right.
It is. Okay.
Yeah.
Yay. Yay. Everything's a long I in the South. So make sure y'all check out the Safe Home podcast. They're on YouTube and anchor.fm. Thank you so much, Beth, for being here tonight. It's just been an amazing conversation. I thank you. I really, really
Oh,
do.
thank you for having me. I just admire so much what you're doing, and
Thank
I
you.
really feel connected to you very much. We're both
Yes.
doing the same work, so thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you so,
Mm.
so much. All right, everyone. Until next time, I can't wait. I'm going to have JD Dilks, NJ's Progress Not Perfection, and his wife, Mikey, next week. We're going to talk about what it's like to have a relationship in recovery and going through relapse and addiction. So that's going to be an amazing show. So join me next week, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 5 Pacific for that show. Until then, you all get up from your give up and create a life you love. You can do that. You have the power to do that. All right. I love you all. Thank you so much, Beth. It's been amazing.
Thank
All right.
you.
Bye, everybody.